stared at her for a long moment before speaking. "Tola," he said, voice low. "Can we talk?" She turned slowly, drying her hands with a towel. "I'm listening." "I've been thinking," he said, clearing his throat. "I know what I'm about to say will sound strange, but I need you to hear me out." She looked at him, cautious. "I still want us to have a child." She nodded. "So do I, but the only way we can, is if someone else helps." Tola's eyes narrowed. "What are you saying?" Mark stood up and walked closer. What if you slept with someone else, just once, to get pregnant?" Tola blinked, unsure if she heard him right. "You're joking," she said. "I'm not," he replied. "I've thought about IVF, donors, but we can't afford all that. This is the only way left." She took a step back. "You want me to sleep with another man?" Mark hesitated. "Not just any man. My brother, Daniel." Mark sat at the edge of the bed, his hands locked together, eyes staring blankly at the floor. Tola stood by the window, her arms folded across her chest, the sunlight brushing softly against her skin, but her heart felt cold. They had stopped talking about the issue years ago. It had become something like furniture in the room, always there, always in the way, but no one dared speak of it anymore. 15 years. That's how long they had waited for a child. At first, it was hope. They were newlyweds then, full of plans. Mark had insisted they wait a year before trying. Tola had agreed, trusting him like a woman trusts a man who once made her laugh in her sleep. But after that year passed and nothing happened, questions began to creep in like damp under the door. Tola started watching her body like a clock. Her moods swung with each month's disappointment. Her friends' baby showers felt like loud parties she wasn't invited to. And through all of it, Mark changed. He became distant, cold, as though something inside him had shut down, and Tola was the reason. "Why don't you go to the hospital?" she had once asked, carefully. "I'm fine," Mark said, not even looking at her. "But maybe we should both." I said I'm fine. And that was the last time it was mentioned. Since then, Mark had made it clear without words that he blamed her. The way he avoided her touch. The way he sighed when she tried to talk about anything meaningful. The way he compared her to women with children when they were out together. "Look at Grace," he'd say. "For kids, and she still finds time to cook for her husband." Tola learned to swallow her feelings like pills. To the outside world, they were just a quiet couple. Tola ran her small event planning business. Mark worked at an accounting firm. They smiled at church. They nodded at neighbors. But inside their house, something was broken. Tonight was no different. "You didn't cook?" Mark asked as he came in, loosening his tie. "I wasn't feeling too good," Tola replied, watching his reflection in the glass. He didn't respond. Just walked straight to the fridge, pulled out water, drank straight from the bottle. Tola noticed it. The little ways he showed he no longer respected her. "You don't even ask how I'm feeling anymore," she said quietly. Mark looked at her, eyes dull. "What's the point? You're always sick." She flinched. "I'm tired, Tola. Tired of this life." She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped herself. What was the use? Every time she tried, he turned it back on her. Somehow, every fight circled back to the same thing, no child. Later that night, as she lay beside him in bed, she stared at the ceiling. Mark was already asleep, or pretending to be. She wanted to scream. To shake him. To say, "I'm not the enemy." Instead, she cried silently, like she had done so many nights before. The next morning, her phone rang. It was her best friend, Jasmine. Please don't say no," Jasmine said as soon as Tola picked up. "I booked us for a wellness check at MedLife Clinic. It's their fertility package. You've been saying you'll go. Let's just do it together." Tola hesitated. "Jas, look. I've been your friend for almost 20 years. You're not okay. I see it. You don't talk like you used to. You don't even laugh anymore. I booked it for this Saturday. Just come." Tola sighed. Maybe Jasmine was right. Saturday came quickly. Tola wore a simple white blouse and jeans, her hair tied up. She didn't tell Mark where she was going, just left a note. The clinic was modern, calm, filled with the soft hum of air conditioners and distant footsteps. Jasmine held her hand through the tests, blood work, scans, everything. A week later, the results were out. Tola, there's nothing wrong with you, the doctor said, his tone calm but firm. All your reproductive hormones are normal. Your ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, everything is functioning as it should. Tola blinked. So, if there's been trouble conceiving, your partner might need to be tested too. There it was. The truth she had feared and hoped for all at once. That evening, she sat opposite Mark at dinner. I went for a fertility test, she said, pushing her plate aside. Mark looked up sharply. You did what? I went. With Jasmine. They said I'm fine. Mark narrowed his eyes. You went behind my back. I had to. You wouldn't listen. So now you want me to go and be poked and prodded like some lab rat? Tola took a deep breath. I didn't say that. But we need to know. Mark stood up. There's nothing wrong with me. You don't know that. I do know, he shouted. I've been with women before, you know. You think you're the first? Tola's mouth dropped open. He regretted it immediately. But the words were out, hanging in the air like poison. So that's what this is, she said, trembling. You think sleeping with other people makes you a man? I didn't mean. No, Mark. I'm glad you said it. It explains a lot. He stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. That night, Tola couldn't sleep. Her thoughts ran wild. She wasn't even angry about the past flings, she was broken over how easy it was for him to use her as a punching bag for his own shame. She thought about leaving, but where would she go? By morning, Mark was back. He said nothing. Just walked in and went to take a shower. The silence between them had grown so thick, even breathing in the same space felt like suffocation. 2 days passed. Then 3. On the 4th day, Mark handed her a folded paper. What's this? She asked. I went, he said. She opened it slowly. A fertility result. Male factor, azoospermia, complete absence of sperm in semen sample. Cause, primary testicular failure. Recommendation, further evaluation and options to discuss with fertility specialist. Tola sat down. She read it again. And again. Mark looked away, his jaw clenched. You happy now? She didn't know whether to cry or scream. I'm not happy, Mark, she said quietly. I'm hurt. That you blamed me all these years. That you watched me cry month after month and never once thought it might be you. He didn't respond. Just walked into the bedroom and closed the door behind him. Tola sat in the living room for hours. Jasmine called. She didn't pick. Her mind was replaying every moment over the past decade and a half. The late nights. The fights. The church services where everyone laid hands on her. The herbs. The prayers. The silent humiliation of being seen as the woman who couldn't conceive. All this time, it had never been her. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Mark barely left the room. He'd lie on the bed with the curtains drawn. He didn't go to work. He didn't eat. For once, it was him that broke down. And Tola didn't feel any joy in it. Just a deep, heavy sadness. One evening, he finally spoke. I thought if I could just ignore it, it would go away. Tola didn't speak. I lied to you. About everything. I knew something was wrong years ago. I went once to a private clinic. They told me then. I just couldn't face it. Her lips trembled. And you made me think I was broken? Mark covered his face with his hands. I didn't know how else to hide it. That night, they sat side by side on the couch, saying nothing. Something had cracked open. Tola stood at the sink, rinsing a cup, while Mark sat at the dining table, tapping his fingers on the edge of his phone. The silence between them had changed, not loud and angry like before, but quieter now, unsure, like a room after a fight where no one knows what to say next. It had been 3 weeks since the test results. 3 weeks since the truth came out. Mark was impotent. She wasn't. They both knew what that meant. They were finally done blaming each other. But now they had to face a different kind of pain, the one where they couldn't fix things with just an apology. Mark stared at her for a long moment before speaking. "Tola," he said, voice low. "Can we talk?" She turned slowly, drying her hands with a towel. "I'm listening." "I've been thinking," he said, clearing his throat. "I know what I'm about to say will sound strange, but I need you to hear me out." She looked at him, cautious. "I still want us to have a child." She nodded. "So do I, but the only way we can, is if someone else helps." Tola's eyes narrowed. "What are you saying?" Mark stood up and walked closer. What if you slept with someone else, just once, to get pregnant?" Tola blinked, unsure if she heard him right. "You're joking," she said. "I'm not," he replied. "I've thought about IVF, donors, but we can't afford all that. This is the only way left." She took a step back. "You want me to sleep with another man?" Mark hesitated. "Not just any man. My brother, Daniel." Tola froze. "Daniel," she said slowly. "Your younger brother? He's healthy. Single. He doesn't have any children of his own yet. And I trust him." She stared at him, stunned. "You want me to have sex with your own brother?" Mark's voice shook a little. "I don't want to lose you, Tola. I know I've done a lot of things wrong. But I'm trying to make things right now. You deserve a child. And I want one too, even if it's not through me directly." Tola felt like the floor had moved beneath her feet. She sat down, her mind spinning. This wasn't just a request. This was her husband asking her to carry someone else's child for both of their sakes. For days, she didn't answer him. She avoided the topic completely, even though it lingered in every room they entered. Daniel lived just across town. He was a mechanic, 32 years old, quiet, not the type who talked too much. She had seen him from time to time during family visits, always polite, always respectful. She had never looked at him that way. And now, one evening, she walked into the bedroom, where Mark was lying down, staring at the ceiling. "I can't believe you're asking me to do this," she said. He sat up. "I wouldn't, if I had any other way. I've failed you in so many ways, Tola. This time, let me give you something. Even if it's not how we planned it." Her eyes filled with tears. "And what about your brother? You think he'll say yes?" "I already asked him," Mark said. "He agreed." Tola's heart skipped. "What?" "He said he'll do it. For us. For me." Her mouth went dry. "You already spoke to him?" Mark nodded. "But only if you're okay with it. Nothing happens unless you say yes." She didn't answer. She went into the bathroom and locked the door. The first meeting with Daniel was awkward. They met in the living room, all three of them sitting like strangers. Daniel barely made eye contact. "If this is too much for you," Tola said, "you can walk away. I won't be angry." Daniel shook his head. "I'm not doing this for fun. Mark's my brother. I know how much this means to him." "And what about me?" she asked softly. He looked at her, then looked away. "I promise to respect you. No pressure. No forcing anything." Mark just sat there, eyes down, hands folded tight. The arrangement was strange at first. Quiet. Secretive. Tola would visit Daniel on weekends, under the cover of business events or family errands. At first, nothing happened. They would sit, talk, drink tea. The tension in the air was heavy. Tola was nervous, Daniel was quiet. But slowly, things softened. Daniel never treated her like a favor. He treated her gently, with care. It wasn't romantic, but it was safe. And after some time, they crossed that line. The first time it happened, she cried afterward, not out of regret, but from the emotional weight of it all. She felt like she was walking into a life that didn't belong to her. Daniel didn't say anything. He simply held her hand for a while. They continued meeting. Weeks turned into months. Then, one day, Tola missed her period. Her hands trembled as she held the test kit. 2 lines. Pregnant. She stood in the bathroom, staring at the result for nearly an hour. She thought about Mark. About Daniel. about what this meant now. When she told Mark, he broke down. For the first time since she met him, Mark wept like a child. He dropped to his knees and held her belly, thanking God over and over. He kissed her stomach, her hands, her face. "You've given me a second chance," he said. "Thank you. Thank you, Tola." He called Daniel the next day and hugged him tightly when he arrived. "I'll never forget what you've done for me," Mark said. Daniel nodded. "You're my brother. That's all that matters." No one else knew. Not their friends. Not the church. Not even Jasmine. It was a private deal. A silent agreement. A story they'd never tell. 9 months passed. Tola went through all the stages: morning sickness, swollen feet, sleepless nights. But through it all, she felt something change. In her body. In her heart. She was becoming a mother. No matter how it happened, this baby was hers. Mark was by her side the whole time. He took her to the appointments, bought baby clothes, even painted the nursery sky blue himself. Then, finally, the day came. She went into labor on a rainy Wednesday morning. Mark drove her to the hospital, speeding through red lights, yelling at slow cars. He held her hand as she screamed in pain, sweat pouring from her skin. Hours passed. Then came the cry. A strong, loud cry. The nurse smiled and held up a baby boy, his skin warm and red, his mouth wide open. "A healthy baby boy," she said. "Congratulations." Mark cried again. He held the baby like he was holding his entire world. "I have a son," he whispered. "I have a son." Daniel came to visit a week later. He didn't hold the child. He stood by the door, watching silently. Then he turned to leave. "Daniel," Tola called softly. "Don't go like that." He looked back. "He's yours now. Both of you." That was the agreement. "Still," she said. "Thank you." He smiled faintly. "Take care of him." And just like that, he left. Mark never spoke about it again. He told people the baby looked like his grandfather. Tola didn't correct him. They had what they wanted. A child. A family. A second chance. But deep inside, something was still unsettled. 2 years had passed since the birth of their son, Elijah. Tola had slipped into motherhood like someone who'd been waiting her whole life. She fed him, bathed him, rocked him to sleep. Mark, on his part, tried to be the kind of father he had always imagined: supportive, present, and proud. But something unspoken still hung in the air. Daniel, Mark's younger brother, had kept his distance. He only visited during birthdays or family gatherings, and even then, he barely stayed long. He'd smile, bring gifts, take a quick photo with the child, and quietly slip out. No one noticed the look in his eyes when he saw Elijah. But Tola did. She didn't say anything, though. She respected the silence. At least, for a while. It started again on a warm Sunday afternoon. Tola had just come back from church when she saw Daniel's car parked in front of her event office. She stepped out of the building, surprised. "Daniel?" He smiled awkwardly. "Hey. I was around, just came to see how you're doing." She hesitated for a second. "I'm all right." "You?" "Fine. Just. I miss Elijah." That one sentence hit her harder than it should have. They didn't plan it. It just happened. First, it was a few casual meetups under the pretense of checking on the boy. Then longer conversations. Then laughter. Then silence. And then, the same thing that happened 2 years ago happened again. And again. And soon, Tola found herself sitting on her bed one evening, staring at another positive pregnancy test. She didn't know whether to scream or fall to her knees. Mark wasn't expecting the news. When she told him she was pregnant again, he froze. "Wait, we haven't been intimate in months," he said slowly. Tola didn't answer. The silence told him everything. "You went back to Daniel?" he asked, voice shaking. "I didn't plan it, Mark. But you did it." She lowered her head. "I thought we were done pretending. You said you wanted more children." "Yes, but not like this." He stood up, pacing the room. "I begged you before. I asked. You agreed. This time, you didn't even tell me." You just went behind my back. I was scared you'd say no. He paused, then laughed bitterly. So now I'm just the guy who raises another man's kids while he sleeps with my wife. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did. He walked out of the room and slammed the door behind him. Months passed. Mark didn't leave the marriage. But things changed. He stayed quiet most of the time. He helped with Elijah, helped with groceries, went to work, came home, and slept in the guest room. Tolar tried to reach out a few times, but he would only nod or give short answers. The baby came on a rainy evening, just like before. A beautiful baby girl. They named her Sarah. Mark held her. He smiled for pictures. But his eyes were hollow. Daniel came to the house when Sarah was about a month old. He had brought diapers and baby lotion in a gift bag. Tolar met him at the door. She looks just like you, she said quietly. Daniel smiled a little. I know. Then he stepped into the living room and paused. Elijah was running around with a toy car, crashing it into the couch, giggling. Mark sat on the sofa, pretending to read, but his eyes were on Daniel. Daniel watched them both for a moment. That's when it hit him hard. He had fathered 2 children, and neither of them called him Dad. He felt a knot form in his chest. He sat down, but he couldn't stop glancing around. At Elijah's drawings on the wall. At Sarah's baby swing. At the family photos. None of them had his name. None of them carried his presence.